Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of this pace setting and nugget-filled webinar with Lab InGet. On agenda is a presentation on tenets of university education, well-filled or well-formed mind. I would like to first start by thanking everyone for making it to this meeting. On behalf of the Lab InGet family, we would want to thank you so much for joining us from all over the world for today's webinar. Thanks for sharing your Saturday with us. Please, we would like to extend our gratitude. This is your precious time and you've taken it to share information and discuss and have this webinar with us. But as we start, because we know a lot of our participants are from different places in this world, would kindly ask you to notify or write in the chat where you are participating from so that we can acknowledge your efforts. Because I know for some it's nighttime, for some it's morning. Here in South Africa, it's in the afternoon, but still, your efforts are very much appreciated, and Lab InGet would like you to know that it's an honor to have you on the platform. My name is Takunda. I'll be moderating for today, and like I said, it would be an honor if everyone would write where they are participating from. I'm expecting a lot of different locations of interest. We are seeing participants from as far as Baghdad, Iraq, participants from South Africa. We have participants from Canada. So already this is a telling sign that Lab InGet is definitely following its mandate of growing geometrically across the world. And this is actually being shown by our participants who are from different places on the earth. We have more participants. We have participants from one corner of the world to another, and it's a great honor to have you. I would like to also extend my thanks to the organizers. Your work is very much appreciated. The work is very much appreciated. But to start off, I would like to talk about some of the few things Lab InGet is about. For starters, the vision of Lab InGet. And we are aware, those who have looked up the institution would realize that this is a leading world-class networking platform for researchers, industries, and labs to revolutionize research across the globe in field of human behavior. Of importance is the three stakeholders: researchers, industry, and laboratories. The mission is to bring standard research labs across the globe close to researchers in any nook and cranny, meaning any place on this earth, offering an opportunity to carry out quality research analysis with minimal or no stress. Because we want the researcher to be free enough to express the thinking mind, and then we take care of the rest. The mandate of Lab InGet is to transform research laboratories' outlook in the world. Indeed, Lab InGet is actually a rescue mission to research, and this would improve by introduction of stuff like digitization, as we saw in the promo video earlier. That's already showing you where Lab InGet is trying to be and where it's trying to go. And already with the different participants across the world, it's already showing us that we are fulfilling that mandate and that we are right on the mission and the vision is coming alive. We also have participants in Ghana, so thank you for joining us. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Desmond Adam Primus Klenam. He's the advisor of postgraduate students at the Academic Development Unit at the University of Witwatersrand in the Faculty of Built-in Environment. He's a materials engineer, and he is continually working on alloy development. He continues to work with different universities in Africa, Europe, and North America. He also has about he also has about a 3-year stint in the industry of as a consultancy advisor analyst with a company by the name Hatch. Dr. Desmond is a research engineer with the School of Chemical and Metallurgy at Wits University. He is a visiting scientist at the Department of Mechanical Engineering, a WPI Junior Principal Investigator. He's a research in the Research Response Group Academic City College in Ghana. He loves to play table tennis. So you can see that our intellects are actually not just people who research, but well-rounded, holistic people, because he has hobbies he pursues, but at the same time, at the forefront of innovation in research. So I would like to give him an opportunity to share with us all the nuggets. I'm ready. My appetite for information is already whetted, and I'm waiting for him to expound information as he does, because he's also my personal mentor. So Dr. Desmond, you can take over and share with us what you have in store.
Thank you, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Good. Once again, I just want to thank everyone for coming. Yeah. Thanks for coming. And I don't take this opportunity lightly at all. And I'm very, very grateful that this task was given to me for me to talk about. As you can see, I'm a Ghanaian, so I always like to put on my Ghanaian outfit. I can also see that I have some of my colleagues and friends and even classmates back from the university days. I see Gabriel and stuff here. Thank you so much for coming. I think that I'm supposed to do justice to something called Tenets of University Education, whether we are training people with well-filled or well-formed minds. And I think that I must say that I am not, I don't think that I am the one that is more qualified to do this justice, but I will try. And these are some of the observations that I have made and that I want to share this with you. Okay, let's see if this thing is working. Okay, it will be remiss of me if I don't mention my mentors and my collaborators, the people's shoulders in which I've been standing to look far and see what I can also do as far as my research and other things are concerned. I think that when I start the presentation itself, if you guys don't mind, I will turn off the video so that I can allow some people bandwidth, if that is okay with you. Moderator and then the team, are you okay with it? Okay, I'm just going to turn it off. Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank my mentor. Was all the people on this list are people that I've personally worked with. Professor Wole Shoboyejo, who used to be at Princeton and is now the interim president of Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Professor Neema Rabah is a civil engineer and also in mechanics of materials at WPI in the US. Professor Dr. Engineer Ulrich Group, we call him the god of fatigue, who is in RWTH. I think when I was in third year, when I was doing my undergrad, I had an stint on the DAAD scholarship to be at, he was then in Osnabrück, West Germany. And then Professor Fred Magman-Laurie was the president and provost of Academic City College. Before then, he worked for Siemens and he has close to about 44 patents. And my master's and PhD advisor, Professor Leslie Allison Cornish, I mean, a woman who saw something that I never thought it was in me and gave me this opportunity and a platform. And my co-supervisor, which I and one of my colleagues share so much, is Leslie had found, and Professor Samuel Kofi, he was my mentor. The reason why I landed in South Africa. He also saw something in me and said, this young man, we can do this. And then he's more like a brother, Professor Rodney Genga, ADU Director, Wits University, and our head of school, Professor Josiah van der Mevel, and my own brother, Chris Mo. Now, I must say that it would be remiss of me if I don't make mention of, I put this man, this particular man here, because he saw something I never saw that was in me. And he's more like a mentor, a promoter, and a brother. He's the one that even says to me, Desmond, you can do this. And that is in the person of Michael Oluwatosin Bodorin. I just want to say to you that, Eshegon, thank you so much for believing in me. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you put through. And I think if your wife, Rachel, and the kid Leslie and Nathan are here, I just want to say to them that thank you so much for allowing some of us to share your husband, your father with us. And on this note, I would want to delve in. And once again, thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure and an honor to be the one talking about these things today. And I'm glad that I'm also able to share some of my reflections with you. Now, the concept is that we are thinking about a well-filled or a well-formed mind. In my view, the university can be likened to a defibrillator, that is to jumpstart our brains in ways that promote cross-pollination and co-creation of ideas. It should be a place for robust scholarly engagement. It should be a place for meritocracy. Now, if you look at the two pictures that you have before you, one has education written about it. So that is where I said these are the kind of people that have so much stuff. They know so much stuff in their head. They've memorized so much stuff. So in a university setting, in my thinking, or in a research lab, or wherever you find yourself, I believe that there are two classes of people. Those who have well-filled mind, or those who have well-formed mind. Now, the people with the well-filled mind, they have some form of education that help them to have a passive appreciation and acceptance of ideas. They are casual and shallow thinkers. I mean, they like to memorize facts and then engage and eager to regurgitate them without really applying themselves to understanding the fundamental concept that we have and we can say. For those so these classes of people, the well-filled mind, they are also superficial in their thinking. They are the ones that John Dix call them shallow thinkers. They don't think deep. They only like to memorize facts. So when you ask them what is matter, they tell you matter is anything that has weight and occupies space. They are easy to show that they know, but they don't know anything, in my view. And when you look at the second picture there, the second picture depicts the people that I say they are people with well-formed mind. Now, they also have some form of education, and that helps them to examine and interrogate ideas. So they are the people that want to assess the pros and cons of whatever they are studying and how that particular thing that they are doing could bring about change. I mean, things, everlasting change. Change that is inimical to what we need to do as a society. I'm talking about the African continent, where statistics have shown that when you take Africa produces about 100 scientists per million people. I mean, so it means that we are at the bottom ladder. It's about time we develop people that have the capacity, that have the tenacity, the discipline, the determination to be able to drive the change we are looking for. I mean, we are all on this call right now. It's easy to say the challenges of Africa are water, healthcare, miseducation, poverty, unemployment, and so forth. But when we ask how many of us are able to apply ourselves to make sure that we find lasting solutions to the challenges we face, I mean, the number will be so minimal. These are people who also engage vigorously and critically with the content. They just don't assimilate stuff. They break things down, they disseminate, and in the course of this presentation, I'll be able to shed some light so that we can take it from here. Now, you see, people who have well-formed minds, they are learning in the academy. They make sure that one, it is experiential. Experiential means that they are able to practicalize what they've learned. They are able to they go beyond the theory to try and make sure that is this thing sound in practice. Remember, for any theory that we have, there may be a set of assumptions, but will those same assumptions work if we are supposed to do this in a practically oriented setting? Now, these are people, and the learning tool is what I also call contextual. They do their learning, their research within the context of where they are working. So, for instance, if they are in Africa, my good brother and friend Michael developed a low-cost titanium alloys to be used as an implant for the African. Why would he think of conceiving an idea like that? Because yes, in Africa, we are below the poverty line. So it's very difficult. We are talking about close to more than half of the African people are basically poor. So you need to develop a material that will be low cost, but will do the work. So I'm talking about what context. Then there are people who have looked at, for instance, Professor Boyejo and the team, they've looked at using bamboo, they've looked at using clay to design water filters. We are talking about context. And there are people that we also make sure that their learning is extensional. So what it means is that they go beyond the classroom. After you finish your degree, you've done this, you need to take the degree and go beyond your classroom, because university is a microcosm of what happens in the society. So after you have this knowledge, you don't want to sit on your citadel, on your tower, on an ivory tower, and then say that I have a PhD. The challenge we have in most Africans is that a lot of us, we are certificated, but we have allowed that certificate to truncate or cut short or alienate us from the happenings of our society, which makes us very difficult to integrate and to also help people do the right thing. That is why Edmund Beck once said that the problem with the world is that good people sit down and do nothing, and they allow the wrong things to triumph. And finally, their learning is unified. I would want to continue from here. Now, let me digress a bit. This is very, very important. I just want to show us the thing I've always been calling the research process flow diagram. Now, at point number 1, every practical problem should motivate a research question, which should be the basis for defining a research project. The project should lead to some experiment with some results and data, which then helps to solve the problem. So I say that research is a closed loop. You start from a problem, you go to some questions, you design a project. I like it when my brother will tell you, we need a work plan. And then when you do that, it gives you the basis. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this with us is that a lot of us on this call today, we are either doing some form of research or some form of teaching. And I'm cognizant of the fact that we have people that are doing their undergraduate degrees, people that are doing their graduate degrees. We have faculty, and then we also have postdocs among us. So I'm cognizant of that. Now, let's go to the tenet of a university education. At the bachelor's level, in my opinion, is the foundational level. It is a place where a lot of the people that get trained learn facts. You're trying to learn the concept that underpins your area. So you learn things like classical Newtonian physics, quantum physics. You do most of these things, materials for energy applications. You do things like chemistry, you do your physics, you do your mathematics. At that place, you are trying to understand. It's more like an entry level into what the profession you want to do. So if you're a materials engineer, you'll be learning principles of material science. Why you are doing all this is one, it to help you appreciate the work that have been done by your predecessors, so that it can serve as a foundation for you. And then we go to the master's level. When you're going to do your master's, that is a point where you begin to master the field. That is where you begin to look at what is happening. You look at the literature. you look at a scientific method, and you try to master the techniques that helps you, which I'll delve in later. And then when you're doing a PhD, this is the place we have the buzzword, you need to contribute. I mean, I've used this yesterday. I was making a presentation somewhere where I told the student that everybody have seen something fall, but it was Isaac Newton that asked the question, why did the apple fall? I mean, so sometimes you can also talk about John Nash. I mean, his PhD is about 28 pages, and he pioneered the field of game theory that became very, very good for economics prediction, and even won the Nobel Prize for it. So PhD is just not another certificate. When we are talking about somebody with a PhD and a postdoc, you must be able to contribute. So you move from a foundational phase to a mastery phase. Once you have mastered the field, you'll be able to spot gaps in research and say, okay, these are the gaps, these are what I can also do. When you go to the place of a PhD, that is where you begin to interrogate and then try to contribute to knowledge. Now, let's go deeper. So first, if I look at a bachelor's degree, one of the things in my view is that we need to train people to become effective thinkers. Effective thinking underpins everything we do. You see, our inability to think is our own doing. And that I think that it was Carl Jung, the psychologist, who said that thinking is very, very difficult. That is what a lot of people judge. And also in thinking, you will need your brain to think. And also the brain comes with a change. And a lot of us, we don't want to change. It is difficult to change because we need our brain to change. And that is where the whole idea of having people who are superficial in their thinking comes about. Number two, we are looking for people. You should be able to apply theory to practice. So when you are getting to your second year, your third year, you begin to do design. When you're doing engineering, this is where you take the theory that you've learned. If you've learned something in matrices, if you've learned something, you've learned some calculus, you've learned some differentiation and all that, you now take that theory and see how can I apply it. And that is why people are driving towards what we call problem-based curriculum, where you try to look for a problem. By the time you are finishing your degree, you are solving that problem. Last year, we hosted a Professor Susina Hele, the woman who basically said you can design fuels from air. And she was saying that when he was in her undergrad, he was busy designing stuff that could actually impact the world. The challenge with the university is that a lot of us, we have become intellectually lazy. And intellectually lazy in the sense that we don't want to push our brain. We don't want to subject our brain to rigorous thinking. We just want to assimilate stuff. And I'm saying this, and I also want to say that if you've not watched the movie called 3 Idiots, when you finish today, go and look for that movie and watch. That movie depicts the two classes of people we have in society. People with well-filled minds. So there is a young man there, he can memorize the entire book. And there is another man there who tries to understand what is written in those texts. The third one is that that is a place for us to build bridges, not silos. Silos are used to hoard stuff. But when you build a bridge, you connect with people. So right from your undergraduate, you must know that great team makes the dream team. And once you have people that you can work with, that is what will drive the change we are looking for. These days, we are talking about collaboration, and networking. So you should be able to do series of networking that will help you build bridges, that will help you to be able to do. Because if you have 3 or 4 people and we are all thinking the same, it means that there are 3 of us are idiots. But if we have 3 people, you will see that the divergent thinking would bring us to a place where we'll be able to apply what we've learned and we'll be able to apply ourselves in the right manner. The fourth one is communication. And I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about communication. So you all heard of Max Planck. I want to use this to illustrate something. I like to tell stories. I know some of my stories can be weird, but I will tell them anyway because I have the permission to do so. So Max Planck won the Nobel Prize in physics. Now, when he won the Nobel Prize in physics, Max Planck went about giving lectures all over. And then he had a chauffeur that was driving him around. And anytime the chauffeur drives him to the venue. The chauffeur goes to the back of the lecture hall, sit down and listen to all that Max Planck was saying. So the chauffeur had done that for more than 30 times. And one day the chauffeur called Max Planck and said, Max, you know what? I think that this thing that you have been doing, I've heard this thing over and over again. So I would want you to give me the permission. Let's do this experiment. And Max Planck, as an experimental physicist as he is, he said, good. So the chauffeur said to Max Planck, the next speaking engagement, you will drive and I will take your place. And then I will do this talking. Because if this is all talking that you professors do, then it's easy. So Max Planck agreed. He drove, Max Planck sat down. The chauffeur mounted the stage and gave a phenomenal and a fantastic stuff, because what? The chauffeur memorized the entire lecture note of Max Planck. So after he had finished and he was about to exit the stage, there was a very phenomenal scientist who lifted up his hands and say, hello, Max, I want to ask you a question. So this man asked a very technical questions that was digging so deep into the fundamental concept that Max Planck discovered. And the chauffeur, being the chauffeur and did not have knowledge in that area, shook his head and said, oh my God, you are eminent scientists and researchers and engineers. I expected a lot from you, because even this question, my chauffeur can answer it. What am I trying to say? If you don't deal with your communication skill, your ability to write, your ability to think. Thinking is writing and writing is thinking. You should be able to communicate your ideas. And then I just want to pause there for a bit, but I'll come back to communication. Let's go. And now I have something that I've put here where I said that these are things that I called the elements of effective thinking. The first one is that I talked about F. One, to ground your thinking, you need to understand simple things deeply. Don't gloss over anything that you read. Don't go there. Try to understand. Gain relevant knowledge. I use the acronym called GROW. To ground your thinking, the acronym called GROW, G-R-O-W. You need to gain relevant knowledge in your area of discipline. Number two, the R over there. You need to reach out. You need to engage. You need to debate. You need to do cross-examination of your facts. The O over there is that you need to open up your worldview. Don't be a very dogmatic and rigid person that says this is what I know and that is all it is. Knowledge has evolved, and you are either revolving or you are evolving. When you go to a revolving door, the door is moving, but it's moving about a fixed point. But when you evolve, what it means is that you have grown. So not all growth or all movement can be tamed as progress. That is food for thought. The second one is that is fire. Ignite insight through your missteps or mistakes. A month ago, Dr. Bodorin told us that we must learn from our failure. And here I want to say to you, you have hindsight to learn from. You have insight that should inform your foresight. And if you are able to do that, what you do is that you can leave your voice print, you can leave your footprint, and you can leave your thumbprint in the annals of history. The next one is air. Create questions from thin air. This is where I use the 5W1H approach. This is something that I learned with my almost 3 years stint when I worked for Hatch. That was a company that is headquarters in Canada, but we were in the Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. The W's are what you know. What went wrong? Why was it wrong? Where was it wrong? When was it wrong? And who made it wrong? And then the H is how can it be corrected? You need to look at it and ask the question. The last one is basically water, where I say to you, see the flow of your ideas. see the flow of your ideas. Sorry about the noise. See the flow of your ideas. And here too, I learned this in the consulting. What happens is that people do what is called idea generation session. Anytime somebody have a challenge or a client have a problem, when we go there, we take a book and we say we want to have all the ideas that can help us solve the problem. Remember that when you go to a place where people have challenges, most of their challenges or problems don't have solutions. So it is not a textbook thing. This reminds me of something that recently happened where our current vice president used to say when he was in position, he said, if your fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. What we are trying to say here is that get a lot of ideas as much as possible about a problem. And when you have done that, when you have collected those ideas, you use what we call a value is matrix to make sure that you rank your ideas according to the order of importance. What that means is that value means what value will this idea that I have bring to the solution? And then is means, can I implement this idea without having to fork out any money, without having to use money to implement it? How easy it is. So you plot a value is matrix graph, and then you can be able to say, okay, I can do 1, 2, 3. That thing also helps you prioritize. The next thing, let's go to masters. The master's degree, remember, I talked to you about mastery. So this is you when you graduated from your undergraduate degree. And then when you were coming for masters, this is the problem you thought you were coming to solve. You see how big it is in relative to you. And then first M there means mastery. The first thing I want you to do, or if when you are a master student, you should apply yourself with is make sure you master the relevant literature. Read, read, read. You read because when you read, the more you read, the more you realize that you know nothing. So master the relevant literature. Number 2, master the relevant scientific method. There is an approach to doing everything we do in life. And we know scientific method from, I think, high school. That is where we're taught the scientific method, a systematic way of making sure that you generate relevant data, and so that you can use that data to inform decision. You have data. Until data is transformed to information, it is worthless. And so data transformed to information is how people gain relevant knowledge. Now, as you see, what you are seeing, that you've realized that you started with a very big thing, but once you understand relevant literature, you begin to cut a section of the circle away. Once you do a relevant scientific method, you understand, you master your relevant scientific method, you begin to chop sections away. The next thing is that you need to master and understand the nature and purpose for your work. You can see that, as you can see that this whole thing is trying to become something. You must know, why am I doing this work? What is the aim, the objectives of what I'm studying? Because these days we are not interested in how much you know, we are interested in people who can use their knowledge to make impact. The fourth one is you need to master the relevant technique. For instance, if you are a materials engineer, you need to know what SRD is used for. You need to know what optical microscopy is used for. You need to know what SEM is used for. You need to understand the operations behind the SEM, so that when you are looking for phases of a material, you can use what? SRD. And when you do your SRD finished, when you have it, you must ask yourself, what softwares do I need to be able to identify the peaks? Do I need to do any deconvolution of the peaks? Am I looking at things that are noise and thinking that they are actually peaks? We need to understand this. The last one, which makes this ball look so fantastic, is to understand the consequences of your findings. Would your finding change policy? Will your findings influence decision? And what will your finding bring out so that people can learn from it? Now let's quickly go to the PhD. Now the PhD and postdocs. One, you should, if you are doing a PhD or you've done a PhD, this place you have to use this for the rest of your life. You should become an independent, you should have independent critical judgment. When you read people's paper, don't criticize the paper, critique the paper. When you read a paper, look at the paper and say, what are the strong points of this paper? What are the weak points of this paper? What are the questions that the paper didn't address? And how can that informs a novelty and originality? We use the buzzword originality. It should be original, it should be novel. I was saying to somebody the other day that we only knife was used for cutting okra, onion, tomatoes, until somebody said, no, we can use a knife to cut a human being. By using a knife to cut a human being, that is novelty. What am I trying to say? You can use the same technique in a different approach. That is novelty. And finally, once you have your novel in this thinking, it closes the gap. A gap is basically a question that people have not been able to solve, but they have provided a clue. So you see why your fundamental, foundational, rudimentary understandings from the bachelor's to the mastery of all the techniques are very important for your PhD and postdoc and for the rest of your life. Now, I told you I'll come back to communication. Let's say I like to plot graphs. Let's say we have X and the Y-axis. And on my X-axis, I have talent, capacity, competency, and skills. And then on my Y-axis, I have communication. Now, let me divide this Cartesian coordinate to 4 quadrants. Great. Now, all of us on this call, we belong to one of these 4 quadrants. No, we belong to one of these 3 quadrants, because the first quadrant here are people that have no skills and are very poor communicators. They are the people that the atmosphere and then the entire universe will take good care of them. The next one is there are people with no skills but excellent communicators. This was the reason why I told you the story about Max Planck and the chauffeur. They can talk just because, and they are people with well-filled mind. They go to internet, browse some few stuff, and then they go. And in the part of the continent that I come from, they go and do a short course online. Tomorrow they are on the internet or they are online saying they are expert in security, expert in economics. Meanwhile, they learn textbook economics. They are expert in engineering. They don't even know what is the difference between a technologist and an engineer. These are the kind of people that we have. Now, a lot of us on this call will also be here. By way of doing a master's and a PhD, we have excellent skills, capacity, and competency, but we have very poor ability to actually communicate. But where we want you to go is the green point. And here again, I would want you to tell you a story. Now, it's a story in Greek mythology, in the days of Troy. So there was the second most beautiful lady in ancient Rome. Yeah, her name was Cassandra. Now, Cassandra caught the attention of the Greek god called Apollos. Now, Apollos wanted to marry Cassandra because Cassandra looked so very beautiful. But Cassandra had a request that if the god were to marry her, the god will have to make sure that the god gave her a gift. So Apollos asked, what is the gift she wants? And Cassandra said, he wants the gift of prophecy, the ability to see what others will not be able to see, and then to be able to tell people aforehand. So Apollos gave Cassandra the gift. On the day of the wedding, when Apollos came to the wedding ground, Cassandra, because of her arrogant nature, did not show forth. So out of rage, Apollos cursed Cassandra and said Cassandra would be able to see what others will not see, but anytime she tells them, they would not believe her. The curse was that nobody would believe the words of Cassandra. For instance, Cassandra saw the fall of Troy, but nobody believed her. The ability to know what was going to happen, I mean, having great ideas, and anytime you put them into the world, you are met with doubt and people refusing to get behind you to bring them to actuality can be daunting. On this point, I want to humbly submit to all of you on this call that if you do not work on your communication skills, on your ability to communicate effectively, how to get the ideas from your head into the world in a way for others to engage and support you with the resources you need, it will drive you mad. Now, I put this thing here to demonstrate something. Whatever you are going to become in your course, in your profession, will boil down on this 3-Venn diagram. You are on this call because you have an excellent education. You are on this call because you have some good work. And even when you are doing a PhD or you are in a stage of education, I call it work. But you see, to educate a man in the head and not in morals is to introduce a menace to society. I welcome you to use your education and skills, education and work that will generate skills, to use your education and character that will generate virtue, to use your value to make sure that you do what is right. Now, I want to quote one of my famous, one of my famous African president who was also a teacher. He's the former Tanzanian president, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. He says that this form of education that you have received, you have a duty to repay the sacrifice which others have made. They are like the man who has been given all the food available in a starving village in order that he might have strength to bring supplies back from a distant place. If he takes this food and does not bring help to his brothers, he is a traitor. Similarly, if you are on this call, if you are a young man or a woman who have been given an education by the people of this republic, adopt attitude, and then you went and you adopt attitude of superiority, or you fail to use that knowledge to help the development of this country, then you are betraying our union. On this note, before I say thank you, I want to say this. The challenges of Africa are enormous. When we were young, we were told that Africa is our mother. But that is not the story anymore. The story is that Africa is our child, that we need to nurture her. What am I saying? Africa has challenges of transportation. What are you going to use your materials engineering, your construction economics degree, your urban planning degree, your architectural degrees to solve it? Africa has challenges of water crisis. The chemical engineers, the materials engineers, you need to design some membranes. Africa has challenge of corruption. Our digital arts, computational people, we need to see how we can develop a seamless system that can bring us to a place. Africa has a problem of healthcare. What are you going to do as a child of this soil, or as a child of this continent, or as a child of this world? Africa has a problem of education. We are miseducated. We have textbook stuff, and we forget. By the time we finish the exam, we forget all that we've learned. But I believe that if you are on this call, this is a call to action. This is a call, an honest plea that we need to reformat, rethink, rewire our brains, that we can work together, we can work for the collective good. I'm trusting you, and I want to finish by quoting this African proverbs that say, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go further, go with people. On this note, thank you so much for having me. And it's an honor and pleasure to be here. It must be done. It has to be done, or we are done. Thank you so much.
Thank
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay, we can.
I can turn on my camera.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Desmond, for the amazing, informative presentation. I am fully imbibed with information. I'm filled. I think you could hear the charge at the end that the man is very serious. He's not playing. He means business. And I think with the same energy, we can actually benefit from that. Before I say anything, I'll just run down through a couple of announcements. Then we can take questions you would want him to respond to. But on the chat section, there's also something Lab Inget Inc. has posted. It's a link to give feedback. So if you get a chance and you would want to give us feedback, there is a link that has been posted a couple of seconds ago in the chat, and you can use it to give feedback of these webinars. But the first announcement is that the forthcoming International Conference on Sustainable Engineering and Materials Development, ICSMED, MD, it's being organized by you know who, Lab Inget Inc., and it's holding in September of this year, 2022. The papers that will be published in this specific conference will be peer-reviewed by a journal indexed in Scopus. Scopus, I think we all know the website, hopefully. And on that note, I would also want to encourage our participants to encourage their institutions and universities to sign up sign up their laboratories to Lab Inget Inc. I think this will also help with visibility. It's an informational world. You share information, then you have done so much good. And institutions where students are looking for postgraduate diploma opportunities in Canada should book an appointment with http://labingate.com/consult. If you go to the LinkedIn page, I think some of these links are very much available there. Our next month's webinar's title and date will be published soon, and it will be on the 30th of the next month, 2022, and it will be announced with due course. With that, I would like our participants to post their questions. We'll take note of them and we'll ask our presenter, Dr. Desmond, to say something about any questions that could be lingering in the minds of the intellectuals that are participating in this specific webinar. And you could actually ask directly into his personal chat. I think he's preferring that too. But Dr. Desmond, if you can see, there's a question that's been posted by Obiodan on everyone's chat. And the first question is actually saying, what can academics do to improve their communication skills? So if you have a quick answer for that, maybe.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Takunda. I think my take on this is that first, I want to say that communication is a skill. What I have done that have helped me over the years is, one, I make sure that every day I read something for 10 to 15 minutes. And then I also watch something between 5 to 10 minutes. And I also try as much as possible to ensure that I write between 300 to 500 words. Anybody that knows me or that is connected to me, that is what I've done. And my big brother, Michael, will tell you, last week he also made, last month he made mention of, you can take some science communication courses. Communication is a skill. We're not born with it. We have to learn it. And if we continue to write, if we continue to think, thinking is writing, writing is thinking. So I take a lot of courses. You can take courses on edX. You can take courses on Coursera. You can take courses on Udemy. Or you can even go to YouTube, and continue to develop yourself. And if you are here as an academic or somebody who is a student, please, in our profession, you publish or you perish. Make sure you are writing for people to read. I mean, my big brother had given us a lot of insight last month on what to do. So throw yourself out there, throw your ideas out there, or even have a blog. I have a blog that I write things and I put things there. And by virtue of doing that, I keep on developing. And all the things that I write, anytime I write something, I send it to Dr. Bodorin, I send it to even my previous people. This is why you need to have a support structure, a good network. And when you have those network, you can bounce your ideas off them. And then they can be able to correct you and to also suggest things. And then you can take it from there. So that is what I would suggest. That is my suggestion. I don't know if it will work for you. Thank you.
What a wonderful answer. Thank you very much, Doctor, for that. I hope, Mr. Obiodan, your question has been answered to your satisfaction, but I think a lot has been said in that answer, and I'm sure you are happy with it. Any more questions would be appreciated. I think conversation and discussion is always good. A follow-up, Dr. Desmond, he says, why is that most PhD holders find it difficult to get jobs in the industries? Is it because of lack of communication skills?
Thank you so much for that question. I would say that, and this is from a practical position. When I got my PhD and I went to Hatch, my boss explicitly told me, yes, you have staff, you know staff, and I know you know staff. However, the things you've learned has given you the tools to be able to, one, think critically and to analyze issue, to do problem finding and problem solving. The challenge that is that a lot of us, we are learning things, but we are not gaining relevant knowledge in our industry. If you are going to an industry and you have a PhD, let's say you want to go into, let's say, materials development, but you want to work with GE, or you want to work with, by the way, we just did a review paper recently, and when you take additive manufacturing, let me just chip in this. When you take additive manufacturing, over 4,000 patents that was registered between 2000 and 2018, 90% of those patents were from industry. I'm talking about they were from GD, they were from M3, Apple, and all that. One, if you are a PhD holder, make sure that you understand your industry, gain relevant knowledge of your industry. A lot of the skills you have is technical skills, but you need to work on your soft skills, your ability to negotiate, your ability to speak, your ability to communicate your ideas. I got my first job in that particular advisory company because I had only 1 minute to pitch my idea. And I asked a lady in a lift a question, and that question led to me getting a job. So I don't think the issue is about being overqualified. The issue is that, one, we, those with PhDs, we hold ourselves in very high esteem, but we forget that when you go into an industry, every industry has a culture and an ethos, and the industry would build on what you have already learned. So once you understand this dynamics, it makes it much easier to go into that industry. And it's also not true that all PhD holders will end up in academia. I will also suggest that there is a website that is called Cheeky Scientist. He's a guy that is actually helping a lot of PhDs get jobs. For instance, how you position your LinkedIn profile speaks volume. So if you are looking to get jobs in industry, you must make sure that what you say you are in person is the same thing you are when you are online. So these are some of the things that I would suggest that we begin to do, and then we begin to think critically. I think everyone here should learn some form of coding or some form of software. You need that because we are in an era where Peter Drucker called the era of 3 C's: accelerated change, overwhelming complexities, and tremendous competition. We don't care about your PhD. We care about what you know and how you can be able to use that thing to solve problems. If you can solve the problem, they will hire you. That is my thinking. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Michael Woodurins actually has said something on the chat. He's actually saying improving communication skills should be a topic for another webinar. So I think that's a suggestion. The key thing is that we need to understand our audience. The audience determines how communication should be structured. This corroborates the point the presenter has made in terms of understanding the language and the modus operandi of the industry. So that was a think point, and I would like to thank you, Dr. Michael, for that contribution. I think it also adds to what Dr. Desmond just said when he was answering Mr. Biodan's question. Are there any more questions? I think if you actually want to speak, you can unmute yourself and ask your question rather than monotonously hearing my voice and looking at me. You can unmute and take an opportunity to ask.
All right, thank you very much, the moderator. I would like to ask this question. Dr. Desmond, thank you for that deep presentation. I just want to ask you, as a lecturer, how do you think we can develop our students to have a well-formed mind? How can we incorporate this into our curriculum, into our syllabus, going by the fact that some universities, they don't really, or in higher institutions, they don't really put into consideration, all this issue of communications, having a well-formed mind into their students. So how do you think we can incorporate this into our curriculum and syllabus? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And then that is an excellent question, and I would attempt to answer it. The first one is that I am an avid propounder of we having a problem-based learning. And I must apologize that the rains are falling here. So sometimes, one, we need to have a problem-based learning. I am very fortunate to be working with a team that, for instance, our students, by the time you are showing up and then you're going to be supervised by Dr. Bodorin, one of the things he does is he will go and download about 3 or 4 papers for you. And he says, summarize it for me. And he says, but first, I want you to tell me, what is the general theme of the paper? Number 2, I want you to suggest to me, what is the strong theme of the paper? Number 3, what is the weakness of the paper? And how can we improve this? Now, that is a way of forcing people to think. Because if your ability to think is what will differentiate you from the others. So if you're only going to be reading things and regurgitating them, it doesn't help. So, and also we must also understand that I have always advocate that if you're a professor or if you're a lecturer, make sure you yourself, you understand your stuff, you know your stuff, so that you don't go there. And we used to have, and I think my classmate Gabriel will bear me witness. When we're doing first year, we used to have a mathematics lecturer who comes in and says, everything in my head is correct. Please don't ask questions. Don't be that kind of a professor. Be a professor that people can engage with you. People can disagree and agree with you. People can come to a place where we will say, look, this is what it has been done. This is what people have done. Why are people saying that this is what they've been doing? Can we challenge those conventional wisdom? We need people that will challenge those conventional wisdom. And one of the things I say to my students, I tell them, you need to approach learning with a heart and mind of a novice, and then pay attention to detail as an expert. Let me take that again. You need to approach learning with a heart and mind of a novice, and then pay attention to every detail as an expert. If you begin to do this and you begin to ask questions because questions are windows to greater instruction. And also, honestly, you the person doing the course, you the student, ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is in it for me? There are people who came to do a master's because they can't find job. There are people who came to do a PhD because they can't find job. If your reasons for doing something is wrong, one, you will not care about it. And when I say care, what I mean is that first, you will not comprehend simple things deeply. The A is that you will not apply the right attitude. The R there is that you will not reach out when you need help. And the E there is that you will not be able to empower yourself and empower others. So it is very important that we, the people that are on this call here, if you're a lecturer, change your thinking. And I also want to recommend that maybe perhaps you should also take some courses in education. I'm currently taking a course in postgraduate diploma in higher education. A course I did was enhancing postgraduate supervision. And in that course, I realized that the way I write as an engineer is different from the way a social scientist writes. But the fact of the matter is that the information gets communicated anyway. So look, find avenues to empower yourself. I have told people, you can't give what you don't have. It's called voodooism or acadabra. You can only give what you have. And a lot of us, lecturers, students, or professors in this platform, we are not doing our student justice because we also understand things superficially. But if we want to dig deep, then we will be able to challenge. That is why I said we should try and make sure that our education, our learning teaching is contextual. Our learning teaching is experiential. Our learning teaching is unified. And our learning teaching is extensional. It must go beyond the class. If you are designing a material, you should have an application in mind. Don't just say, I want to do this for the sake of science. If you want to publish, publish. But make sure that when you are writing something out there, it is sound. And I want to say that at every point, maybe take some time off. Stop, think, and reflect. And perhaps you should get to a point where you become so obsessed with excellence and making sure that the student you chunk out are a replica of you. I think it is Professor Peter P.L.O. Lumumba who said, life is a relay race and we'll hand over the baton to the next runner. But it is our duty to push the next runner in a favorable or a pole position. And also the challenge we have these days is that those that have ideas seems not to have the power, and those who have the power seems not to have the ideas to implement it. So we need to meet each other halfway. That will be my take on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. That was, again, another exhibit of the wealth of information that's probably simmering and turning in Dr. Desmond's mind. But thank you for that. But another comment from Mohammed Aboud, he says that you'd be grateful if you simply give an idea about synchronizing the purposes and methodologies through the scientific and efficient teamwork according to your experience. So I think it's a question extended to you, Dr. Desmond, from Mr. Mohammed.
Okay, I think this question is better suited for my boss, Michael, but I'll try and answer it. I think that when you start with a problem, and it says, okay, this is the problem. Once you start with that, you set in motion a sieve analysis or a sieved mechanism. Because if you say, for instance, you live in Abuja and you want to travel to Lagos, and you say you want to travel by air, immediately you say you want to travel by air, it means that certain logistics needs to be in place. Muhammad, the reason why I'm taking this route is that, one, for you to be able to synchronize and syncopate your research in a way that bring in the purpose and the methodology, one, you need to ask a vital question. What is it that I am looking for? What has the literature said about the thing? What methodologies were used? What is the weakness of those methodologies? How can I improve them? For instance, somebody says that if you test something, a material at this particular temperature, you get XYZ. But then when you look at the microstructure, it's telling you something different. You have to ask yourself, what could be the problem? And so, one, for you to be able to do synchronization, you need to trust, but you also need to verify. And I think that if you do that, then it will lead you to where you want to go. And I also see that you're talking about teamwork. I mean, if you are doing panel supervision where you have 5 people doing different aspects of the project, the thing you need to have in mind is that you need to look at what is the big picture. So if somebody is supposed to do computation, what questions is being asked and what will that computational tools give us? And if somebody has to take that computational tools and now go and do some experimental work and validate it, what are they talking to each other? So it's about designing your experiment and research in a way that it is data driven, number one. Number two, it looks at what is the objectives. I think there is something that I always advise and recognize is that a lot of the time we need to perhaps write, when we are writing our proposals, we need to write our objectives as if they are titles of a journal publication paper. In that way, you are forced to make sure that it is succinct, it is precise, and that you are addressing the purpose and then the methodologies, because then that one would influence how you approach the problem. That would be my take on this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And Bongani commented, he says, from what Dr. Klenam presented about our education, I think this is a comment, from what Dr. Klenam presented about our education programs, surely they prepare us for memorization. That's why companies have graduate programs to prepare recently graduated students for industrial readiness. In short, we need a minimum of 6 to 7 years of training in total to be ready to impact the industry. That is in 2 extra years after graduating to prepare us for relevancy in the appropriate industries. I think that's a comment from Wangan. Obidan made another comment, saying student looking for, okay, that's an addition. I think it's probably one of our final announcements that students that are looking for postgraduate diploma opportunities in Canada should schedule an appointment with Lab InGate. I think the link has been posted again in the chat, and I think it's for a very little to no cost. It's very, 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 very affordable to set up such a consultation. But we have Dr. Abioye. I think, do you have any questions? I'm not sure about that, but if there are, I don't think, okay. I don't think there are any questions because Lab InGate is also posting again the Google Sheet in which you can give feedback to our webinar. But I think I'll finally extend an opportunity to Dr. Abioye to give us closing remarks to this wonderful webinar we had. It was such a meal for the mind. So I will give it to you, Dr. Abioye, if you are listening, so that you can give us some closing remarks.
Thank you very much to our presenter. I need to put on my cap too, so that I will look like Dr. Desmond. I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Desmond, for making it a day with us at LabIngate. We also want to say thank you very much. So on behalf of LabIngate and the Webinar Planning Committee, I will say a big thank you to our speaker, the erudite and prolific Dr. Desmond, for the highly educative presentation. He has already demystified the topic, and I'm sure we all greatly learned from this session. I would also like to say a big thank you to the moderator of today's webinar. Thank you very much. And to every participant, we say a big thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend to the webinar, to this webinar. And your presence made it a great success. And we would love to hear your feedback. And you can see the feedback link on the webinar chat. We know that this feedback means a lot to us. Please fill out the survey and from the link in the chat box. It only takes 1 to 2 minutes. We'd like to hear more about what you want us to the topics that you want us to come up with. I would also like to remind us of our upcoming International Conference on Sustainable Engineering and Materials Development in 2022. I want to believe all the papers that were presented in last year's conference, they are already out. And I would like people to check their account on scientific.net and also on Fuel Communications. The papers are out there. So for this year conference, international conference, it will be coming up September 20 to 22. Watch out for more details, and you can also find details on www.labingate.com/conference on our website. Also, LabIngate has already partnered with some colleges in Canada for recruitment of international students in Africa seeking admission. If you are interested, you can fill the consultancy form on the website or send an email to admin at LabIngate. Please note that this admission is winter admission for year 2023. It's already open. And also, we'd like you to encourage your institutions to sign up their laboratories on LabIngate platform to give their laboratories feasibility and to bring equipment close to the researchers in any part of the world. Please contact us for your research services like consultation, training, laboratory access. It is our great pleasure to have you all at this webinar. And on this note, we would like to end this meeting. Thank you very much for coming. And please be on a lookout for our next month's webinar, which will be communicated soon to us. Thank you. Bye for now.
Hello, dear research colleagues. What are the challenges you are facing? Are you a researcher? Are you in need of the nearest laboratory with state-of-art equipment to execute your project? Are you currently planning to contact a laboratory or research host for your research visit or bench work? Are you a laboratory? Are you looking for increased research patronage and visibility of your laboratory? Are you interested in establishing robust research collaboration both locally and internationally? Generate revenues on laboratory equipment and sustainability of equipment maintenance. Are you an equipment manufacturer or buyer? LabIngate Incorporated, Canada, is here with an unparalleled solution by introducing LabIngate Digitalized Laboratory Innovation, LDLI, a one-stop platform to meet all your research needs. LDLI is a user-friendly platform with a capacity of over 10 million equipment, more than 100,000 laboratories, more than 5 million researchers, offering effective networking across the globe. Execute your related research transactions with ease today by signing up on www.labingate.com/register. We look forward to having you on our platform. LabIngate, the gateway to world's laboratories. Hello, dear research colleagues. What are the challenges you are facing? Are you a researcher? Are you in need of the nearest laboratory with state-of-art equipment to execute your project? Are you currently planning to contact a laboratory or research host for your research visit or bench work? Are you a laboratory? Are you looking for increased research patronage and visibility of your laboratory? Are you interested in establishing robust research collaboration both locally and internationally? Generate revenues on laboratory equipment and sustainability of equipment maintenance. Are you an equipment manufacturer or buyer? LabIngate Incorporated, Canada, is here with an unparalleled solution by introducing LabIngate Digitalized Laboratory Innovation, LDLI, a one-stop platform to meet all your research needs. LDLI is a user-friendly platform with a capacity of over 10 million equipment, more than 100,000 laboratories, more than 5 million researchers, offering effective networking across the globe. Execute your related research transactions with ease today by signing up on www.labingate.com/register. We look forward to having you on our platform. LabIngate, the gateway to world's laboratories.
Are you a researcher? Are you currently struggling to identify the right equipment for your research? Are you having challenges locating the equipment? Then LabIngate Incorporated has the solutions to your problems. LabIngate is an online platform with a capacity of more than 10 million equipments, 100,000 laboratories, and 5 million researchers in 5 continents across the globe. Visit www.labingate.com to be one of the million researchers on the platform. You can also create an account with us at laboratories to make your services and equipment more visible to researchers.
Hello, dear research colleagues. What are the challenges you are facing? Are you a researcher? Are you in need of the nearest laboratory with state-of-art equipment to execute your project? Are you currently planning to contact a laboratory or research host for your research visit or bench work? Are you a laboratory? Are you looking for increased research patronage and visibility of your laboratory? Are you interested in establishing robust research collaboration both locally and internationally? Generate revenues on laboratory equipment and sustainability of equipment maintenance. Are you an equipment manufacturer or buyer? LabIngate Incorporated, Canada, is here with an unparalleled solution by introducing LabIngate Digitalized Laboratory Innovation, LDLI, a one-stop platform to meet all your research needs. LDLI is a user-friendly platform with a capacity of over 10 million equipment, more than 100,000 laboratories, more than 5 million researchers, offering effective networking across the globe. Execute your related research transactions with ease today by signing up on www.labingate.com/register. We look forward to having you on our platform. LabIngate, the gateway to world's laboratories. Hello, dear research colleagues. What are the challenges you are facing? Are you a researcher? Are you in need of the nearest laboratory with state-of-art equipment to execute your project? Are you currently planning to contact a laboratory or research host for your research visit or bench work? Are you a laboratory? Are you looking for increased research patronage and visibility of your laboratory? Are you interested in establishing robust research collaboration both locally and internationally? Generate revenues on laboratory equipment and sustainability of equipment maintenance. Are you an equipment manufacturer or buyer? LabIngate Incorporated, Canada, is here with an unparalleled solution by introducing LabIngate Digitalized Laboratory Innovation, LDLI, a one-stop platform to meet all your research needs. LDLI is a user-friendly platform with a capacity of over 10 million equipment, more than 100,000 laboratories, more than 5 million researchers, offering effective networking across the globe. Execute your related research transactions with ease today by signing up on www.labingate.com/register. We look forward to having you on our platform. LabIngate, the gateway to world's laboratories.
Are you a researcher? Are you currently struggling